Work during my planned vacation? Then you have to pay me extra when I leave. Posted by Shabuti. Here we go. I'd been working at this company for about 3 years. I'd been consistently growing in my role and eventually was given a project to own, with 1 or 2 other team members if needed, but it was a major project with a quick turnaround. I determined that I could do it myself, though it would be tight, and since I was hoping for a promotion, I took on the project solo. I was able to deliver the project slightly ahead of schedule and with better quality than expected, which allowed us to make a huge sale. The head of the company gave me an award at an all-hands meeting for the work I did, and my boss let me know I was on track for an end-of-year promotion with a nice pay raise and more responsibilities. But I was needed in another part of the business, so I was going to have to transfer under a new manager that was notoriously hard to work with. I transferred to this manager, and the first meeting we had to get on the same page, I brought up that I had a 3-week planned vacation in 4 months. I had never taken vacation, so I had 6 weeks saved up, and I didn't want to start losing it. He told me, of course, that it would be fine and we would be able to make it work. About a week later, we have our first meeting with our product team. They had a new large project idea and wanted it to be released in just 3 months. As my team looked over the details, we knew this was a 6 to 8 month project at best, and it would be better to deliver it in smaller increments so that they still had something to show in 3 months, or we would need to push out the schedule. My boss was adamantly against both, so throughout the next week, he made us have last-minute 3 to 4 hour brainstorming sessions every day, but he would not even tell us until around 3 p.m., forcing all of us to work late every day that week. At the end of the week, there was no way we could figure out how to deliver everything on the shorter timeline, and so my boss asked me to stay behind after the meeting. For another hour, he railed against me, saying I was failing at this project and that he could not see me getting a good annual review in the next 4 months and that a promotion wasn't even on the table. This annual review would also include the project that I had just received an award for and is supposed to encompass 12 months of work, but he was basing this off the first 2 weeks on the new team. At this point, I knew he was ready to use me as a scapegoat for his bad management and started applying elsewhere. We continued working on the project and, sure enough, at the end of 3 months, we were still far from being able to deliver and my boss was getting heat from up above. Right around this time, I received an offer for another company that would be the promotion I wanted and an even larger pay increase. I accepted the offer and negotiated my start date to be after my vacation, which was now 3 weeks away. That same day, my boss calls me into his office and tells me, "We need to talk about this vacation." I reminded him that we talked about it months before and that everything is booked, flights, hotels, and so on. He would not let up and told me there was no way that I could take 3 weeks off with how behind schedule we are. He told me I could go on my trip, but I could not take vacation and would be expected to be online during our business hours throughout the trip, 4 a.m. to 1 p.m. local time in my vacation spot. Cue malicious compliance. Every morning while on vacation, I would log on at 4 a.m., check emails, answer questions on our internal chat, and do the minimum work expected, logging off as soon as it hit 1 p.m., all without burning any vacation. With 1 week left in my vacation, I requested a conference call with my boss to give him my 2 weeks notice. He was shocked and tried everything to get me to stay and finish out the project, including bringing back up a possible promotion. I told him that I'd already accepted a job with the start date upcoming. I worked my last 2 weeks before moving on to my new job. Because my boss required me not to take vacation, the company had to pay out all of my accrued vacation once I left, which was a little less than 7 weeks at that point, including the 3 weeks I had originally planned to take. Now short-staffed, I heard from other coworkers that the project missed 2 more adjusted deadlines, and eventually the manager was demoted before being let go from the company. About 6 months later, the head of the first company asked me to lunch to offer me a role taking over my former boss's old position. I negotiated an even higher pay raise increase as well as company equity and ended up going back there for 3 years. Vacation is vacation. You don't work on it unless it's an absolute crazy emergency, if that, and then to have it pulled out under the rug like that, oh man. Malicious compliance, 10 out of 10 from me. You want me to fly 12 hours earlier because it's cheaper? Posted by Warm Tomato 2126. I, a 56-year-old male in the UK, was working in Africa as an operations manager for a large global security company from 2009 to 2014. The company I was working in had been through a long civil war and was very underdeveloped. Think like no paved roads, people living in very traditional African lifestyle, so on. At the time, I'd been working there on 10 weeks in country, 2 weeks at home rotation for about 4 years. I'd flown to and from work so often that I had the journey down to the bare minimum travel time, and it worked out the cheapest option for the company because the travel days were paid from when I left home. The shorter my journey, the cheaper it worked out for the company. Now, someone in the head office had looked at cutting down on travel costs, probably to make themselves look good and get promoted. As a result, I got an email after a week at home saying that they had changed my normal flight, which was 5 p.m. on Sunday from my nearest UK airport via Amsterdam, then on to Nairobi, connecting with a 9 a.m. flight to the war-torn country on Monday morning. The change was from a 5 p.m. departure to a 5 a.m. departure the same day, same route, and saving about 80 pounds. Now, to clarify, the 9 a.m. flight from Nairobi was the first flight to the war-torn country because the destination airport was the only surfaced runway in the country. It had had no runway lights or radar, so all flights had to be in daylight. Anyway, I agreed to the flight time change, but they had to move it to Monday so I don't lose a day at home, which all become clear in a moment. They had agreed because it still saved 80 pounds on the ticket. No skin off their nose. Once I got the flight confirmation, I contacted the travel desk asking for hotel and taxi bookings. When they asked why, I said that I need these, and I explained that to make a 5 a.m. departure, it required a check-in at 3 a.m. So I needed a hotel at the airport on Sunday night because no trains were running to get up the 3 hours to the airport from home at that time of the morning. The flights they booked would get me into Nairobi for 7 p.m. after dark, so I'd need a hotel there and a taxi each way to and from the hotel to get me onto the 9 a.m. flight on Tuesday, the same flight I would have been on if I'd left at 5 p.m. but a day later. A couple days go by and I got a phone call from the company travel desk telling me that the travel plan was confirmed. I was on the 5 a.m. flight with a hotel reservation at my UK airport the night before, a hotel in Nairobi after landing, and my taxi would collect me in Nairobi and drop me off at the airport for my final connection. I asked about the cost savings. They said 80 pounds. I then asked about the hotels and taxis. They replied, "Oh, they don't come out of our budget, that's the operations budget, so you're fine." I was happy. I was arriving back at work a day later, still paid the same amount with a night out in Nairobi to sweeten the deal. My boss, on the other hand, went nuts. Nobody had told him of the changes. My deputy flew out on the plane I flew in on, meaning I didn't get a handover of the work that was going on. On top of that, of the cost of the hotels, the taxi, and the extra day's pay had all come out of my boss's operational budget. I think the total amount added was almost 1,000 pounds. But hey, they saved 80 pounds on that flight cost. When companies split their budgets up like this and they want to save money and they don't think about the whole big picture, this happens. Way to go, OP. Stop fixing the photo printers during Christmas rush? Sure, why not? Posted by the audiophile. To preface, I used to work in the photo lab of a very prevalent retail pharmacy. You know the one. I was good, fast, efficient, and had always provided the most excellent customer service. Customers loved me. I adapted official procedures to make them better and improve the final project, and I fixed the photo printers. If you've worked in a 1-hour photo lab, you know that no one fixes those things. They jam constantly, overheat, never get replaced or updated. They'd break at least weekly, if not more. Same thing with the kiosk and receipt printers and POS system. It's a nightmare. I haven't worked there since 2017 and they finally updated the pin pads 6 years later. Because the printers would break so often and I had experience fixing printers from when I worked at a school, I'd just whip out a screwdriver, open them up, and fix them myself. It was faster and easier than putting in a ticket, and it meant that I could keep churning out orders during peak instead of being 1 to 2 printers down at all times. Now, shortly before the holidays, we got a new AM. He'd previously managed another store, but had to step into a less stressful position due to a heart issue. The guy was a prick, and he created stress for himself. He treated team members like garbage, and most people were too afraid to stand up to him. I had a good working relationship with our GM, so I was not afraid of this guy. and he would often single me out because of it. At one point during Christmas rush, he caught me with my metaphorical pants down, screwdriver out, and disassembling a printer that had suddenly stopped working. He chewed me out, told me to stop fixing the printer immediately and just put in a ticket. If he caught me fixing a printer again, he'd have to take disciplinary action. Cue malicious compliance. I stopped fixing the printers and just put in tickets. In about a day, we were down to one functioning 4x6 printer that was overworked to heck and back. That printer almost caught fire while I was off shift because no one was able to unjam it. He never told me to stop fixing the printers again and left me alone the entire rest of the time that I worked there. I ended up being wrongfully terminated due to an ADA leave for a major surgery when corporate never got my paperwork, despite my PT faxing it over, and I found a better job that I love at a company I still work for. Brick manager ended up getting fired several months later for customer complaints. This right here, if you ever see an incident of management not understanding what the workers are doing, this is it. You just totally told a worker to stop doing something that they were really good at and helping the company just because you didn't know. OP, you win. They lose, you win. Right? Am I right here? Surely I'm not the only one. Don't expect me to follow some of your rules and ignore others, posted by Faithlessness Type 45. In the 90s, I was working for a company that sold pagers and airtime. You know how long it takes at the cell phone store to buy and activate a new phone? It took that long or longer to activate a pager. I was the lowest person paid on the premise and the only hourly employee. Quite often, I would be helping customers as 5 p.m. came and went, and sometimes had as much as an hour overtime on my time card. When I was hired, I was given an employee handbook that stated that working off the clock was a fireable offense, so I kept careful track of my hours, which were verified by my supervisor. I did this for about a month before both my supervisor and her boss advised me that I could not put in for overtime any longer. I asked my supervisor what I was supposed to do at 5 o'clock, continue working the counter or work off the clock. She was furious, but told me to leave, and I did. Every day at 5 o'clock on the dot. OP, you did right. They told you to go, you go. Get paid overtime, you're not working off the clock. That's just crazy, right? Check out yesterday's malicious compliance video and subscribe for more. See you later.